Ever wished you could just have it all? Yeah, me too. But the hard truth is, in the real world, we can't. And that goes for us, for our leaders, and for entire economics. We're constantly forced to make really tough choices. Today, we're going to break down a super powerful economic tool that lets us see these choices and their consequences with crystal clarity.
All right, let's just dive right in. I want you to imagine you're in the hot seat. You're the mayor of a city, and you've got a limited budget to work with. You have to decide, does the money go to more policing, or does it go to more social services? Things like food support and housing. There is no easy answer here.
I mean, think about it. On one side, more policing helps maintain law and order, which, is pretty essential for things to run smoothly. But on the other side, better social services can create a healthier, more educated, and more productive population. Both sound great, right? The problem is, with a fixed budget, putting more money into one means you have to take it away from the other. This is the classic economic problem we call scarcity.
So when you're facing a trade-off this big, it's easy to feel kind of stuck. But luckily for us, economists have come up with a visual way to map this out, to help us think through these decisions logically and really understand what's on the line.
It's called the Production Possibilities Curve, or PPC for short. You might also hear it called the Production Possibilities Frontier, or PPF. All it is really is a graph that shows you all the different combinations of two things, like policing and social services, that a city or country can possibly produce if it's using all of its resources in the best way possible.
So check this out. This graph shows our mayor's dilemma perfectly. You've got policing on one axis and social services on the other. That curved line isn't just some random shape. It's super important. It represents the absolute maximum limit, the frontier of what our city can produce with what it has right now.
Okay, so how do we actually read this map? Well, to get it, you need to know what it means to be on the curve, inside the curve, or even outside of it. Let's use a classic example from economics to make it really clear. A country deciding between making weapons or producing food.
First up, take a look at point A. See how it's floating outside the curve? You can think of this as the dream scenario. We'd love to have tons of food and tons of weapons, but with the resources and technology we have today, it's just not possible. It's an aspiration, something to aim for, but it's not a reality right now.
Now, any point right on the curve, like this point B here, well, that's the sweet spot. This is what we call efficiency. When you're on the curve, it means you're firing on all cylinders, making full use of everything you've got. Nothing is going to waste.
But what about point D, here, inside the curve? This spot represents inefficiency. It means some of our resources are just sitting around, totally idle. Maybe you've got high unemployment, or factories that aren't running. The key thing about being at point D is that we could be producing more of both things. We're not living up to our full potential.
All right, now we're getting to what is maybe the most crucial lesson the PPC can teach us, and that is, every single choice, even a really efficient one, comes with a price, a hidden cost. And that cost has a name, opportunity cost.
So what is opportunity cost? It's simply what you have to give up in order to get something else. Because our resources are limited, choosing to make more of one thing means you absolutely have to make less of another. The PPC makes this trade-off totally visible.
Moving from one point to another along that efficient curve isn't free. Just look at this graph. To crank up weapon production by 1,000 units, this economy has to give up 40,000 pounds of food. That lost food, that is the opportunity cost of those extra weapons.
You've probably noticed that the curve is bowed out, right? It's not a straight line. And there's a really important reason for that. A straight line would mean the trade-off is always the same. But in the real world, resources aren't perfect substitutes for each other. As you shift more and more towards one thing, the trade-off actually gets steeper. We call this the law of increasing opportunity cost.
Let's bring this back to our mayor's choice. Think about it. The resources for policing, like trained officers and precinct buildings, are not the same as the resources for social services. You can't just take a cop, hand them a new name tag, and say, "Congrats, you're a social worker now," and expect them to be just as effective. As you shift more resources, you start using people and tools that are less and less suited for the new job, and that makes your opportunity costs go up.
So far, we've kind of been assuming that this curve is just fixed, that it's set in stone. But in the real world, no way. The limits of what's possible can and definitely do change all the time. The whole PPC can actually move, and when it does, it tells a story about the health of an economy.
So what happens if some good news comes along, like the city gets a big grant from the federal government? Well, now you have more resources for both services, and when that happens, boom, the entire curve shifts outward. This is what economic growth looks like. Suddenly, combinations that used to be impossible are now totally on the table.
But of course, things can also go the other way. Say a nasty recession hits, and the city's budget shrinks. Now there are fewer resources to go around. In that case, the entire production possibilities curve shifts inward. This is economic contraction.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. Growth isn't always symmetrical. Imagine a new surveillance technology comes out that makes policing way more efficient. The city can now provide more police services with the same amount of resources, but its ability to provide social services hasn't changed at all. This causes the curve to pivot outward, but only on the policing side.
Okay, we've covered a lot. Points, curves, shifts, opportunity cost. But let's zoom out for a second. What does this all really mean? Why should this simple little graph matter to you, or to our leaders, or to entire countries?
Well, when you boil it all down, the production possibilities curve is basically a visual summary of 5 gigantic economic ideas. It's a constant reminder that scarcity is real, and because of it, we have to make choices. It shows us, plain as day, that every choice has an opportunity cost. It gives us a benchmark for efficiency, and it shows us how economies can grow or shrink.
But here's the final, and maybe most important takeaway. The PPC is a map of what a society can do, not what it should do. Economics can show us the trade-offs, it can lay out the options, but it can't choose our path for us. That choice, well, that's a reflection of our values, our politics, and our shared vision for the future. So the real question isn't just what's possible, but what kind of world we actually want to build.